Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil mursalin. So we may continue about, in deeper about models of competition, which we started earlier. Let's say a company or companies that have no real competition. Let's say company or companies that have a few, one or two competitors. Now let's say company or companies that have many competitors. So which situation is best for consumers or buyers? Why? Which situation describes most markets? All of the above are called market structures or models of competition. Each one exists to some degree in our economy. They are important because the model of competition determines in a large degree the availability of products, choice of products, and most importantly, price of products. How businesses compete and what impact it has on me. So, what are models of competition? So, definition: a description of the type of market that a particular business or industry operates in. It is also known as market structure. So, the four types of models of competition are: first, perfect competition; second, monopoly; third, monopolistic competition; and fourth and finally, oligopoly. So what is perfect competition? The definition, yes, as we said, a market structure in which a large number of businesses produce the same product. Only reason to choose one firm over another is the price. Four conditions for perfect competition are: first, many buyers and sellers. It means that there are many buyers and sellers, where so people have lots of options to choose whom they buy from. The second is identical products, which means that there are no differences between what is sold by different suppliers. They are exactly the same. As for the third one, so buyers and sellers are informed. Buyers know the prices and quality of products sold by all vendors to make the best decision. As for the fourth, is free market entry and exit. It means that there is a free market entry and exit. So businesses can enter the market when they can make money and exit when they can't. What types of businesses are perfectly competitive? So we have farm markets, example public markets, where many farmers sell their vegetables. It means that there are many buyers and many sellers. A carrot from farmer, for example Brown or X or whatever, or whoever, I'm sorry, is equal to a carrot from farmer Jones or whoever. So they are identical products. Buyers can compare prices and quality by walking the market, so they are informed. Yes, so both buyers and sellers are well informed. Farmers choose to bring produce or not. Inexpensive to rent a space in the market. So there is free market entry and exit. Are there many perfectly competitive businesses? No. All four of the conditions must be met for perfect competition. This is very difficult in most industries. Often people can only buy from one supplier. Products are rarely identical. Buyers often do not know if a product is cheaper or better at a different supplier. And there are barriers to entry prevent free market entry. What do we mean by barriers to entry? So the definition, yes, are barriers to entry are factors that make it difficult for new firms to enter a market. For example, here we have startup costs, yes, versus technology. So the expenses that a new business must pay before the first product reaches the customer. For example, we have the rent, machines, product, labor, etc. As for technology, some markets require a high degree of technological know-how. As a result, new entrepreneurs cannot easily enter these markets. Example, software and pharmaceutical companies. Now we will come to the different kinds of competition. We have monopoly. Yes, the second one is monopoly, which means that a market is dominated by a single seller. They form when barriers prevent competitors from entering the market. This is often because of the high cost to supply a product. They take advantage of their monopoly power and charge high prices. For example, in the United States, most monopolies are illegal. For example, we have examples of monopolies. During the late 1800s and early 19th, Standard Oil and Carnegie Steel. From the late 1800s to the 1980s, AT&T, also known as Bell Telephone, had a monopoly on phone service. Microsoft has been accused and convicted in court for having monopolistic characteristics. As for natural monopolies, some monopolies are allowed by the government to exist, so which are called natural monopolies, which means that they are markets that run best when one firm provides all of the supply. Example, Monroe County Water Authority. This is in the United States of America. RG&E used to be a natural monopoly, but recently has opened to competition by sharing power lines. As for government monopolies, so when it comes to patents, so the licenses, yes, that patents means licenses that give inventors the exclusive right to sell their product for a certain period of time. Industrial monopolies are usually rare cases where the government allows an industry to restrict the number of firms in the market. Example, Major League Baseball. Monopolistic competition. The definition is that many companies compete in an open market to sell products that are similar. It means the same but not really identical. There are four conditions of monopolistic competition. First, many firms. There should be many firms. It means many companies. Mono company do not have high start-up costs and so have more firms. Second, few artificial barriers to entry. Barriers to entry are relatively low. The third is slight control over price. For example, firms have some freedom to raise prices because each firm's goods are a little different from everyone else's. Fourth, differentiated products, which means that firms have some control over selling price because they can differentiate or distinguish their products from other products in the market. What types of businesses are monopolistically competitive? So there are lots. Most markets exist in this model. Example, soft drinks. Coke means Coca-Cola, Pepsi, RC, W, Pop, etc. So which means that there are many firms. Relatively inexpensive, it means cheap to produce, don't need huge factories or chemicals, etc. So there are few artificial barriers to entry. Coke is a little more expensive than W Pop, slight control over price. So there is slight control over price. Some people like Coke more than Pepsi, etc. And so there is the because they are differentiated products. So how do firms in monopolistic competition get customers? Through non-price competition, which is a way to attract customers through style, service, or location, but not a lower price. So the four types of non-price competition are characteristics of goods. For example, firms distinguish products through size, color, shape, texture, or taste. Example, Coke versus Pepsi, lemon Pepsi, and vanilla Coke. And second, location of sale. A convenience store in the middle of the desert differentiates by selling its maize from competitors. Third is service level. Some sellers can charge high prices because they offer customers a higher level of service. For example, fancy sit-down restaurants versus McDonald's. The fourth, advertising image. Advertising creates apparent differences between products in the marketplace. For example, Jordan's versus Carmelo Anthony's shoes. So we may make a comparison between monopolistic, yes, and perfect competition. Means monopolistic competition and perfect competition. For example, far as perfect competition is concerned, the prices are lower, firms have no control, the profits are lower, the cost and variety are of low cost, no variety identical products. As for monopolistic competition, the prices are higher, which means that firms have some control. The profits are higher in short term, but must work hard to keep ahead of rivals. The cost and variety are higher, which means that there are high costs for differentiation and wide variety. What is meant by oligopoly? The definition is it is a market which is dominated by a few large profitable firms. How do oligopolies work? So first we have collusion, which means an agreement among members of an oligopoly to set prices and production levels. Price fixing, which is an agreement among firms to set at the same or similar prices, which means, so both are illegal in the US. Cartels, which is an association by producers established to coordinate prices and production. Example, OPEC, which is an organization of petroleum exporting countries, controls the oil supply and manipulates prices of gasoline. Example, De Beers controls 80% of world's diamonds, keeps prices high by limiting supply. What do we mean by market power? Market power is the ability of a company to control prices and output. Markets dominated by one, or which means that markets which are dominated by one or a few firms, means monopoly or oligopoly, have higher prices and lower output, which means that there is great market power. Markets with many sellers, which means that monopolistic and perfect competition, so have lower prices and higher output, so which means that there is little or no market power. What do we mean by predatory pricing? So predatory pricing is setting the market price below cost levels for short term to drive out competitors. Firms in monopolistic and perfect competition do this to gain market power. Example, my pizza, for example, if I may say it, my pizza shop sells slices for $0.50 each, even though it costs me $0.75 to make. So I am losing money, which means $0.25, but it drives the competition out of business, so I can raise the price later. Government and competition. The government keeps firms from controlling prices and supply of important goods. So antitrust laws are laws that encourage competition and break up monopolies or oligopolies in the marketplace. How many forms of antitrust laws are there? There are 4 forms of antitrust laws. First, regulating business practices, which means that government can intervene if a firm has too much market power. Second, breaking up monopolies. Antitrust laws have been used to break up monopolies. Example, Standard Oil, AT&T. The third one is blocking mergers. A merger is a combination of 2 or more companies into one firm. The government can block this if it decreases competition. 4 is preserving incentives. So in 1997, new guidelines on mergers were introduced, allowing companies to merge if they show benefits to consumers. What do we mean by deregulation? Deregulation is the removal of some government controls over a market. It is used to promote competition. Deregulation allows more competition in a market, lowers prices, and increases variety of benefits, but often can lead to layoffs and business closing, which are negatives. So in the short term, because of the change. Example, airline deregulation in the early 1980s. New, smaller, cheaper airlines emerged, but the older, larger airlines are having trouble competing and have had to cut back on flights, employees, and benefits. So in-flight means history. Thank you very much indeed.